What is going on, guys? It's Dom from Mustache the Gathering, and I'm back with another EDH deck tech. It's October. We're doing some spooky, we're doing some Halloween themed deck techs. This week we got mono black skeletons with Gisa the Hellraiser. Gisa the Hellraiser is 3 a black and a black for a 4/4 legendary creature human warlock. She has ward, pay 2, and pay 2 life, which is pretty good protection. Skeletons and zombies you control get +1/+1 and have menace. The skeletons getting +1/+1 and menace is kind of all we really care about on this commander. The other stuff is just kind of icing on the cake. She also has whenever you commit a crime, which is targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyards, you create 2 tapped 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature tokens. So this is kind of just a little bonus. You get some 2/2s that become 3/3s. So you get some chump blockers, some other stuff. But the main meat here is the skeletons. And what skeletons are you going to play? Well, you're going to play cards like Skeleton Crew, which is a skeleton pirate that, surprise, surprise, gives other skeletons and pirates +1/+1. He also gives you a 2/2 black skeleton pirate creature token whenever something leaves your graveyard, and you can pay 6 and return him from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. I actually really wish this was a legendary creature, because this is like the perfect commander for a skeleton deck. That I would wish so much that they made this legendary. You're also playing cards like Tiny Bones the Pickpocket, which is basically Ragavan in mono black. It's 1 black pip for 1/1 with Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast an online permanent from that player's graveyard, and any type of mana can be spent to cast that spell. So, you hit somebody, you get some mana ramp early on, some stuff like that. It's pretty good value, pretty low to the ground. You also have skeletons like Skithrix the Blight Dragon, probably one of the more famous skeletons. It's a dragon skeleton, 4/4 flying infect. You can pay a black pip and he gains haste on a turn, or you can regenerate him. With all of your buffers, there's not... Very rarely will this one hit somebody with infect, but it'll 2-hit somebody with infect if you get them twice with it. It's a pretty scary threat, and I really like it in this deck. You also have Skeletal Crocodile, one of the worst cards in the deck. A 4-mana 5/1 that is a skeleton. That's it. That's all it does. But with all your other buffing cards, this actually can be pretty powerful. Pretty late in the game. It's going to be kind of a one-shot cannon. Skeletal Snakes, pretty similar, a little bit more low to the ground. 2 mana for a 2/1. I like this card a lot more, but not the best card in the deck. But this deck is kind of a more casual, like low stakes deck. So I really like it here, and I love this art. You have Paragon of Open Graves. Other black creatures you control get +1/+1, and you can give a black creature Death Touch. Really like this one. It's a skeleton, which is fantastic, and it buffs all your other black creatures. You have Gutter Bones. There's a lot of skeletons like this that are 1 mana 2/1s or 1/2s or 1/1s that are kind of low to the ground. They come in tapped. Sometimes they don't come in tapped, and there's a special thing that can return them from the graveyard to the battlefield. So Skeleton Pirates is going to trigger a lot getting those tokens. And there's a lot of skeletons like this, and they'll get really big with all of your buffs. You have Spawning Pool, a card I've never heard of until I made this deck tech. It comes into play tapped. It's a land. It gives you a black mana, or you can pay 2 and turn it into a skeleton with regenerate until end of turn. So if it does end up dying, you can regenerate it and you don't lose your land. But, for one times you need that little bit extra damage, it's really good there. You have cards that buff skeletons that aren't skeletons, like Death Priest of Merkel. It's a Tiefling Cleric, but it gives skeletons, vampires, and zombies you control +1/+1. And at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you can pay 1 and get a skeleton creature token, which is really good. It does everything you want in this deck. Buffs your skeletons, makes more skeletons. A lot of cards kind of lump in skeletons and zombies together, like this next card, Death Baron. Skeleton creatures you control and other zombies you control get +1/+1 Death Touch. So that's why it's kind of good that your commander is making those zombie tokens, because they're getting buffed as well, but you kind of really want to focus on the skeletons here, just because I kind of like that vibe better. You got Mikaeus the Unhallowed. It doesn't technically buff skeletons, it buffs other non-human creatures and gives them +1/+1 and Undying, but none of your skeletons are humans, so I think this is really good in this deck. It'll make them all die, come back with a 1/1 counter. Really like it. You got Maskwood Nexus. It makes all your creatures have every creature type, so you probably don't want to play this when you have Mikaeus out, because it'll make all your creatures humans and then it'll turn him off. But, very rarely you can have both these cards out in the same game, just based on the nature of how big your deck is. And I really like this deck because I really like this card because you pay 3 tap it, make a 2/2 blue shapeshifter token, which is a skeleton. So you're making more skeletons whenever you want. I really enjoy that. You got Corpses of the Lost, one of my probably favorite cards from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, besides Skeleton Crew. 3 mana for an enchantment that skeletons you control get +1/+01 haste, just right off the bat. fantastic. When it comes into play, it gives you a 2/2 Black Skeleton Pirate, and at the end of your turn, if you put anything in your graveyard, you can pay a life, return it to your hand, so then you can regain that ETB effect if you have nothing else to do with your mana. Really like this card in this deck. You have Bad Moon, 2 mana, simple, enchantment. Black creatures get +1/+1. Really like it. The art has an army of skeletons on there, so it fits the vibe perfectly well. Love this card. You have Drudge Spell. It's in contention with Skeletal Crocodile for the worst card in the deck. It's on theme. It's a skeleton horse on the art. It gives you skeletons. If you exile 2 creatures from your graveyard, it gives you a skeleton token. But if somebody destroys this enchantment, all your skeleton tokens, you have to sacrifice them. It's not like if this card hoses me once or twice, I'm definitely taking it out of the deck. But it's kind of fun. It's thematic, and I really like it otherwise. Same with Nocturnal Raid. It's not the best card in the deck. Black creatures get +2/+0 until end of turn. It's a symmetrical effect, so if your opponent's playing black, it'll give them +2/+0. But I see this card as kind of like a finisher, where you're attacking with all your skeletons. You just need that little bit extra damage. You throw it in there. I like it also because it has a skeleton army on the art as well. Mono Black actually has quite a few cards that care about creature types. We get Pax Disdain. You choose a creature type, and then target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn for each permanent of that type. That's pretty good for 2 mana. Probably going to get -4/-4, -5/-5, -5, which is a pretty good removal, and pretty thematic. You have 3 Tree City, new from Bloomburrow. You choose a creature type, and then you pay 2, tap it, add mana equal to the amount of creatures you control of that type. It's kind of like a creature version of Cabal Coffers. So it pay 2 as long as you have 3 skeletons. This is worth it. I like this card, but it's you gotta kind of have a lot of skeletons to get it online. Urza's Incubator, fantastic card. Nothing more to say. Makes your skeletons cost 2 less. Easy. Pact of the Serpent. Love this card in this deck. Probably one of my favorite spells. You choose a creature type. You draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of creatures of that type. So, you have 4 skeletons. Pay 3 to draw 4, lose 4 is pretty good value. Even if it's 3, that's pretty good value. 2, you're starting to get a little bit less value, but I still like it. You have Herald's Horn, makes your skeletons cost 1 less, and you look at the top of your library. If there's a skeleton, you draw an extra card that turn. Really like that. It's just really good in the deck for a skeleton deck. You also have cards that are just generically good in mono black. Throne of Eldraine, one of my favorite cards in any monocolored deck. It's going to be one of your best cards. It ramps, it draws you cards. It's just fantastic. You have Witch's Cottage. It enters tapped unless you control 3 or more other swamps. You will control 3 or more other swamps for sure because it's mono black, and then you just put a creature from your graveyard on top of your library in case one of your good things gets destroyed and you want to get it back. You have Defile, pretty good removal spell here. -1/-1 for each swamp you control. You're going to have a lot of swamps, so this is going to be a 1 mana, just get rid of something similar to like a Swords to Plowshares type of deal. You have a Castle Locthwain. Once again, tap unless you control a swamp. You will control a swamp, and pay through, draw a card. You lose life equals the number of cards in your hand. That's not the greatest effect, but if you're kind of digging at the end of the game, you might die if you don't draw something good, or you just have nothing else to do with your mana and a lot of life. Go for it. I mean, this is a pretty good card. There's no reason not to include it. You have cards like Mutilate, which is one of my favorite mono black board wipes. -1/-1 for each swamp you control. If you control 5 swamps, this is probably going to wipe most things on the board. If it's later in the game and you have like 8 swamps, this is going to definitely get rid of pretty much everything on the board. So I really like this board wipe. You have Black Market Connections, which is just very good in mono black in general, but even better in this deck because not only do you get a treasure and a card, you also get the 3/2 Shapeshifter with Changeling, which means it's a skeleton. So every turn you make another skeleton, that is going to get buffed by all of your other buffs. I love this card in this deck. So there's a couple cards that I didn't include in this deck list, like Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, and Cabal Coffers. They're good in any mono black deck. Cabal Coffers especially. I already have a couple mono black decks with Cabal Coffers and sort of this combo in there, and this was meant to be a little bit more of a lower powered deck. So I actually didn't include those and a couple other just mono black, like really good staples, just because I didn't think it kind of fit the theme, and I wasn't really a fan of it. So yeah, that is my deck tech for Gisa the Hellraiser skeleton deck. We have been waiting many years to make a skeleton deck. They finally made it possible with the Lost Caverns of Ixalan recently and the OTJ. I don't even remember what OTJ stands for. Outlaws of Thunder Junction. They finally made it possible with cards from those 2 sets. They single-handedly had a lot of skeleton support there. So this October, if you're looking for a spooky deck, build a skeleton deck finally. And if you like this deck tech, stick around for more. There'll be more Halloween themed deck techs throughout October. And yeah, let me know if there's any cards you would want to put in, any cards you want to take out. And yeah, have a good day. Peace.